With the MLB offseason in full swing and massive contracts being signed left and right, it's safe to say that the league will look a lot different on opening day in 2023. But while some front offices are getting praised for their signings, one guy that is dealing with a lot of hate right now is the Red Sox general manager Chaim Bloom. Before I get into it, welcome to the War Room, a channel where I discuss all things baseball related. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's get straight to it. In 2019, the Boston Red Sox fired their general manager Dave Dombrowski, which at the time was a pretty questionable move and still is to this day. Dombrowski was the Red Sox GM for 4 seasons, and during that time, Boston won 3 consecutive division titles for the first time in franchise history. They were 3rd in the league in regular season wins behind the Astros and Dodgers. They had a season with 108 wins, which was also a franchise record, and to cap off their 108-win season, they won the World Series over the Dodgers in just 5 games. But despite this 2018 championship, Dombrowski was fired less than 1 year later. Boston replaced the 63-year-old Dombrowski with the 36-year-old Chaim Bloom. The owner, John Henry, felt that given the current state of the team, they were leaning more towards a rebuilding process as opposed to spending loads of money and trying to win again, and Henry felt that Chaim Bloom was the right guy to lead that process, so he gave him the job. If I had to describe Bloom's tenure so far with the Red Sox using one word, I would say confusing, because he has made moves that would suggest a massive rebuild, but then sometimes makes trades and signings that suggest otherwise. Perhaps the most notable move that he's made since becoming GM is when he traded David Price along with former MVP and face of the franchise Mookie Betts to the Dodgers for Alex Verdugo and 2 prospects, a move that left many fans confused since one of the best outfielders in the league still in his prime got traded for pretty much nothing. The best part of this move for Boston was that they were getting rid of Price's awful contract. The first season under Chaim Bloom was the 2020 COVID year, so it was pretty lucky that Boston was rebuilding during this time. They ended up finishing last in the division, but had a pretty productive offseason. They signed Hunter Renfroe to a 1-year deal worth $3.1 million, and Kike Hernandez to a 2-year deal worth $14 million, which would go down as extremely underrated signings because both of these guys played a big role during Boston's 2021 season. The Red Sox also traded for Kyle Schwarber at the trade deadline, and all of a sudden, when you take into consideration Xander Bogaerts, JD Martinez, and Rafael Devers, who were already on the team, this Red Sox lineup looked pretty nasty, and they were ready to compete for another championship less than 3 years after winning in 2018. The 2021 postseason began with a wildcard win over the Yankees and ended in the ALCS against the Astros, but the future looked bright in Boston once again. However, this past year has been a bad one for Chaim, so let's break down what he did with this team and why lots of fans hate him right now in the city. I'll start it off by mentioning that in 2022, the Red Sox finished last place in the AL East, a huge step back from the year prior. Before the 2022 season, Chaim traded Hunter Renfroe to the Brewers for Jackie Bradley Jr., even though he had 31 home runs and 96 RBIs in his year in Boston. The same Jackie Bradley Jr. who used to play on the Red Sox that they didn't re-sign and let go to Milwaukee. In his second stint in Boston, Bradley Jr. had a terrible year where he had 3 home runs and a .210 batting average in 91 games, and he ended up getting released before the season ended, while Renfroe put up 29 home runs with the Brewers. Chaim also failed to re-sign Kyle Schwarber, who ended up going to the Phillies where he led the National League in home runs with 46 and was an all-star. So those are the key departures. The biggest addition during last year's offseason was the signing of Trevor Story, when he gave him a 6-year, $140 million deal. Trevor Story was a star in his first 6 seasons in Colorado, but was very underwhelming his first year in Boston. He played only 94 games, he had a career-low .238 batting average, and struck out 122 times. 122 strikeouts in 94 games is equivalent to 210 for a full 162-game season, which would have led all of baseball. Obviously, there's still plenty of time for Story to prove he's worth the big contract, but 1 year in, and it's looking bad for Chaim Bloom. A side note is during the 2022 season, Chaim Bloom landed the Red Sox Reese McGuire, Tommy Pham, and Eric Hosmer at the trade deadline, so time will tell if these trades were worth it. But now it's time to talk about this offseason. Boston's longtime shortstop Xander Bogaerts was a free agent, and it was rumored throughout this past season that the team was going to trade him, but they ended up not trading him because they were confident he wasn't going to leave and he was going to come back to the Red Sox in free agency. But yesterday, in probably the most shocking move so far, it was announced that the San Diego Padres signed Bogaerts to a massive 11-year contract worth a total of $280 million, and he'll be joining a stacked lineup with Manny Machado, Juan Soto, and Fernando Tatis Jr. Red Sox fans were livid at Chaim Bloom for again failing to sign a player that would have played a huge role in winning another championship. A four-time All-Star who was with the team since age 20 in 2013 is now gone. There were reports that Bloom's contract offer to Bogaerts was around 6 years and $160 million total, which is more per year, but still $120 million less. So it really comes down to Bloom really not wanting to spend the money that other teams competing for a ring are willing to spend. In my opinion, I don't think you can completely give up on Bloom, but if you look at all the guys who have been on the Red Sox since the beginning of his tenure, many key players who were already on the team are gone. The good players that he got to Boston he couldn't keep, and the players that he is keeping are guys who aren't worth what they're making. Many fans are doubting his ability to handle any situation regarding Rafael Devers, and most of the fan base is on bad terms with him right now. Despite signing closer Kenley Jansen and Japanese star Masataka Yoshida this offseason as well, it really feels like Chaim isn't building this team. He's just going through an endless cycle of talent that isn't actually improving year to year. So the Red Sox are definitely a team to look out for during the 2023 season, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see how Chaim Bloom's tenure with the team progresses from here. But let me know what you guys think about this situation in the comments below. Thank you for watching, like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.